I normally speak more off the cuff, but you're following the governor and the president and doctors, and you're just a basketball coach. I decided to put a little more into it. So I'd like to start by offering my condolences on behalf of my family, Lupi and Stephen Raquel. And Stephen was at one of the buildings 2 nights ago, about 10 minutes after things happened. So sometimes we don't understand because we haven't been through it. That little moment brought me a little closer to understanding. But as well as our entire university community who was impacted by the horrific actions Monday night, I'm representing our athletic department, and I feel like Michigan State, my 40th year here. I don't like the place. I don't love the place. I live the place. To the families of those who were senselessly taken from us, words seem so hollow right now. To the individuals currently fighting for their lives in a hospital and their families, we're praying for you, and I know that my wife and I got a chance to go to the hospital. I know Governor Whitmer was there, and I know our president was there, and unbelievable people. There are so many good people in the world, the doctors, the nurses. Although, for me, I'm also a father of 2 Spartans of my own. I can't begin to imagine what all of you are going through. But I do know that we, as a campus community, can offer our support both to you and to each other. Look around. Look next to you. Shake somebody's hand. Introduce yourself to someone you don't know. That's what we are, and that's what we need to be at this time. I'd like to offer a special thank you, as all have, to our first responders who seem to get paid little and asked to put their life on the line each and every day, as I've learned through my own assistant coach not that long ago. The coordinated response from law enforcement from around the state, from the FBI to the EMS to the hospitals, was nothing short of remarkable. And to the students who listened to the shelter-in-place directive, your ability to follow protocol, even in the face of fear, was incredible. If you use that throughout your life, it will be helpful. I won't be long, but I did want to offer a few words that some of you will hopefully find helpful. Michigan State is my home. Everyone thinks I'm a Youper. Yes, that's where I came from. But virtually all of my adult life, I've been a Spartan. I've seen some incredible highs. And yes, unfortunately, there have been some devastating lows. But as a Spartan, we always get through it together. We're Spartan tough, Spartan strong. If you need proof, look at us all standing here tonight. Each and every one of us. We've come for many different reasons: to heal, to grieve, to honor our victims, to stand up to fear, which you're going to have to do a lot in your life. Whatever you're feeling, it's all valid. Emotions are different for each and every person. I cry in front of my team. I cry on national TV. Don't be afraid to show your emotions. We all process trauma in a very different way. I'm just glad we're all here together tonight. So let me close with the challenge. Let's all do a better job taking care of one another. Through no fault of our own, but COVID has led us to all feel a little more separated from one another. It drives me crazy. We need each other. For 40 years, I've always believed that at Michigan State, we are at our own strongest when we're together. In athletics, the best teams are always greater than the sum of their individual parts. The same is true for our community. Governor Whitmer, you should be proud that, not only did our police, not only did our hospitals, but just the individuals in our community all band together at this incredible university that I have given most of my life to, and have a lot more to give in the future. If any of you need help, please speak up. Be vulnerable. Don't be afraid. It's no secret that I do wear my emotions on my sleeve, so I'm not afraid. Our hearts are heavy. Our loss has been great. Our lives have been permanently changed, but with a shared commitment to help each other and a promise to remember those we have lost, we will learn to find joy once again. I think everybody spoke that something has to be done in our society. Gun violence is insane right now. We all have a platform. Some are small, some are high, but we all have a platform. And I hope each and every one of you use your platform to help others, so other families don't have to go what these families are going through now. I appreciate everybody being here, and before you leave, I hope you meet the 10 people around you and become closer. The world needs it. Michigan State needs it. The grieving time needs it. I need it. Now it's my privilege to introduce two of our incredible student leaders. And that's what we need, more leaders. Please welcome Joe and Hannah to the platform.
As we struggle as a Spartan family together to find the words to process what happened on a few days ago in Berkey Hall and around the student union at Michigan State on campus, it's hard to find the right words, but nobody does it better than Tom Izzo, as he did last night in front of a large crowd of Spartans that are there trying to find a way to heal and get through this. It's Thursday, February 16, 2023. I'm Jason Strayhorn, your host, along with my co-host, Otis Wiley Jehuu Caulcrick. This is Sparta. The victims that we lost a few days ago. We want to honor them today before we continue on the show and give a moment of silence for them while we think about them and their hearts and their souls. Thank you. In times like this, we need leadership to get us through the tough times, a way to plant a foot forward and pivot into the next direction. But we first must, take an introspective look at what just happened and try to come together in the community so that we can heal. One of our own, Jehuu Caulcrick, has been through his own civil war as a young child, and he's been through a lot of things. And Jehuu, please bring some insight into where your heart is and what you feel.
Yeah, Jason, it's definitely tough. It's definitely tough for the three of us, especially, and everyone that we're surrounded with as Spartans, because we've walked those sidewalks of East Lansing. We've been in those classes. Me being a social science major, a lot of my classes were in Berkey Hall. Talking to Otis, a lot of his classes were in there. As Spartan fans, we tailgate outside the union. We go through the union. We go to the shops in there and everything like that. So this is very, very tough for us. And, when this happened, this tragic, senseless incident happened on Monday night, we had a meeting. We thought about, do we do a show? Do we not do a show? And we decided in the best interest that out of respect to the victims, the community, the university, to not do a show, because we know each and every Tuesday and Thursday we come together and we have a show that pulls the curtain back to what it means to be a Spartan Dawg, what it means to be in that locker room. And that was not the time to do that. And so that's why we decided to postpone the show on Tuesday and come on today. And today we have a lot of great people coming on, a lot of experts in their fields, because the three of us, we may be experts with X's and O's in football, but we're not experts when it comes to mental health. We're not expert when it comes to the spiritual side of things. So we decided to create this platform today. And for the 1 hour that, all the Spartan nations, all the This is Sparta MSU fans, come aboard with us. We want to create that escape out of this tough time that we're all facing right now, to come together as a family, huddle together for this 1 hour and create that escape. And also too, I know we promoted MSU quarterback Noah Kim, to be on the show today, but we feel, as respect to Noah, as respect to, the organization, the program and everything like that, it's not fair to have him come out and be that one voice right now. So today is a lot bigger than X's and O's. It's about healing as a community. It's about healing as Spartans. It's about coming together as Spartans. And that's why this title is appropriately titled Spartan Strong.
No, great words. Otis, any words from you?
Yeah, it's been real tough, man, from a standpoint of trying to work, I guess, through it, as a crisis. Your job is day to day with making sure, partners are, happy and satisfied. And to Jehu's point, athletic events were canceled. So it's an immediate action when it happens, to be able to say, hey, when will it be a time for me personally to, process it? And, today I had the opportunity of delivering, food to, the FBI and our responders in investigating and doing their part, with this investigation at Berkey Hall, and, just walking up there to the side, doors where you have caution tape, and not be able to walk in there, but just really place the food inside of inside the door so that they can take it back. And it's just eerie. It's eerie. It was an eerie feeling of I constantly play it inside my mind of scenarios if I had class in that first floor classroom, and what would I have done if something was to happen if I was on campus, and then just trading places. And those things replay in my mind of what could I have done, and the victims who are really chasing their dreams and getting the education and thinking that this is a safe space, who was robbed of that life. And so it's this show is really about that. And we're so much bigger than, like you said, Jehuu, football, sports. We have to truly take consideration of the human element of this and the aftermath that will continuously follow this, as everyone had a different feel and everyone had a different perspective experience in this terror or this horror, that really took a Monday night evening by storm. And so this will be a tough one to truly talk through, but I think this, to your point, is a great opportunity for us to all just be open and vulnerable, and understanding that this has to stop, but we have to pray for the hope and healing of our victims, and our victims' families, but also the ones that are still battling their lives.
No, appreciate that, guys. We have to find ways and great tools in order to cope with this and to move forward. While we honor the victims and understand the healing process is different for everyone. So we have a guest on the show. We have a few guests from Teams Rising right now. We've got Vinny, we have Ashley, Vinny, and Ashanti that we want to welcome to the show to talk mental health.
Welcome.
Welcome.
I see Vinny.
Thank you. Yes, sir. No, I appreciate you guys opening up this space. It is truly empowering in this moment, and I feel honored alongside with Ashanti and on behalf of Ashley to be here to discuss with you guys some of these reflections that we're having in this moment.
Yeah, we appreciate you, one, being open to joining. I know it was a request that was week of as we were, building out this production of the show this week. And so, I think it's more so of your experience dealing with student athletes, and there's multiple things that happen in someone's lives that is trauma, right? Like trauma that you have dealt with some student athletes in your prior practice. And so, like, can you give us a little bit of insight of what you witnessed, obviously from your chair where you're located, to about our news, but also about just mass shootings in general, but like as a student athlete, but just as a human being, the process of processing what just happened on Monday night?
Yeah, man. I think personally, it's fascinating to see how we're all responding to something that I'm coming from California. So to give you context, I'm in the West Coast and we're hearing this news. And if I could be completely transparent, although there's that initial shock, because this news has been so repetitive in our culture for so long, we react with numbness. And a lot of times in our grief, that is our first response because we want to deny the reality that is in front of us. In working with student athletes, and I also work with justice impacted youth, many times I see that we're not treating grief with sacredness that it needs and necessitates. Many times we think that grief has this linear pattern and path. I think a lot of people go to this model of like, first there's denial, and then there's anger and depression, bargaining, and then finally there's acceptance. But I liken it to we're always battling between loss and restoration. And so in the loss, we acknowledge the emotions and the loss and the pain of the loved ones that we lost, of the communities that are being impacted. But we also need to find our way in our grief to take a break and then return, because only then are we able to maintain that energy for us to keep moving and progressing forward. And so I see a lot of us, we get caught up in this model that this is how grief is supposed to look like. And if I could empower the student athletes, empower the students and anybody that was impacted by this, is that your grief should not be defined by what others believe it should look like. In fact, your grief is sacred to you yourself as an individual, and the process and how you're going to react in that grief is going to be unique to you and your nature. And only then can you really realize how are you going to move forward and proceed. I want to strip away that set of expectations. Time doesn't necessarily mean that everything's going to be healed. That's actually a myth when it comes to grief. Each one is on their own path. And so I think those type of things need to be stripped open and need to be realized, and people understand that in their grief, they are becoming advocates because they're actually acknowledging the reality of the pain that is occurring.
Yeah, Vinny, you made a great point there, and you said is that feeling of numbness when stuff like this happens, because it happens so often, but also too, there's also that feeling of, yes, that happened, but it will never happen here. Right. Until it does. So like, what do you tell these people, these people that when it finally hits home, because when I was in college, it happened at Virginia Tech, and we're like, oh, it'll never happen here. We're walking around campus and, so what do you tell those people that when it does happen and that shock that comes in, and how do you help cope with that shock?
Yeah, I liken, so for myself, one of my expertise is kind of group therapy. One of the three curative factors that I try to allow for people to proceed in their grief is hope, universality, and connection. We have to instill that there will be a sense of hope that we can progress from this at some time. Doesn't have to be now, but at some point in our time, there is a hope that we are trying to progress to. Then the concept of universality is what I find beautiful, and I think this is what you guys are offering on this podcast, is that we're not unique in our pain. I'm not the only one that is suffering. There are other individuals that are also suffering from the same pain. And so in the community, as we are processing the shock and processing the grief, when we realize that other individuals are alongside with us in our pain, we feel a sense of comfort. I'm not the only one that is going through this. I'm not the only one that's angry. I'm not the only one that's looking for justice. There are others that are in the same path along with me. And that comfort allows them to progress in their grief with more certainty. And then finally, the idea of connection. And I think that's what we are doing on this podcast and having this dialogue. I'm sure at Michigan State, the same thing's occurring amongst the students and opening that safe space to talk and make it real, because we have to run away from this idea of disassociating about what happened. We'll have to confront with this head on. And when we confront head on, the raw emotions just have to be allowed into the room and into the space. Way too many times we're trying to shut it down and suppress it. Or we I know a lot of times I hear from young folks and young student athletes, I'll explain all my pain to some older folks, whether it be coaches, whether it be my advisors and mentors, but they shut me down, my pain, with advice. And so a lot of times we're trying to speak life into individuals, but it's the wrong time. Instead, we're supposed to be listening. So let me hear and validate where you're coming from. Let me provide that safe space for you to really come forward with all the pain, all this rawness. And I'm gonna be real, when we hear situations like this, it will be individuals that will come forward with a sense of vengeance, with a sense of need to advocate for a sense of anger, a sense of questioning their existence, a questioning of their communities, of the society that they live in. And so if we don't validate that, provide that comfort for those type of raw emotions, we're not going to progress in the grief that is necessary. And so if we're able to hit those points, and I think that's what we're doing here collectively on Spartan Strong, we're beginning that dialogue in order to empower the youth who are being affected by the most by these type of shootings to come forward and speak with their grief openly, so that action can take place.
Wow, this is extremely interesting, intriguing to me. When you talk about from the athletic side, a lot of times people look at athletes as tough and leaders, and that they should be able to weather things like this. But as in your professional opinion, I believe vulnerability is best. What kind of tools do you see that athletes or people who have that same persona, I guess, that it's okay to be vulnerable at this time in order to process things at their own time?
Great question. I think also if Ashley and Ashanti, you guys want to join in, feel free as well. I don't
Feel
want
free.
but a couple points that I would bring up is the willingness to challenge the culture. The willingness to challenge the culture. I think a lot of young men, when I talk with them, they seem to understand that this is the way that we can go, that I'm supposed to lead with a limp, is what I like to call it alongside in my circles. Lead with a limp. I think our generation is tired of seeing individuals lead in a sense of perfection. But if we're leading with a limp, therefore vulnerability, more people are going to be attracted to humanity and your pain and will want to follow you. And that's why I think we have to step forward with that grief. I think for me personally, it's challenging the culture more and more and more. If athletes are able to find a sense of empowerment among first within themselves and then amongst their local athletes, right, on their team, for them to come forward to the coaches, for them to come forward to the culture and say, no, I do want to speak on the pain that I'm having. I don't want to suppress it any longer because it's affecting my play. It's affecting my perception, my self-perception as a man. Then we can begin the actual discussions for this to take a precedence nationally. But that challenge of the culture has to be embraced wholeheartedly. I think the discussions and dialogue have commenced, but this is some of the work that Team Rising is attempting to do and move forward in, is challenging that culture and having that sense of empowerment to continue challenging it. Our job is not yet done. Although the discussions and dialogue are occurring, although we are seeing changes in what it means to be a man, what does it mean to be vulnerable? Can I be vulnerable as a man or as an athlete? Those questions may come up forward. That's just dialogue. it then has to become a repetitive theme and pattern. And so I think we're still in the beginning, and we're still in that process and in that work of continuously challenging the culture. That's where I believe it has to begin first and foremost.
Extremely well said.
Yeah, and I know Ashanti is on, as well as Ashley. I think from a standpoint of, it's all of the perspectives of that could have been me, or that we talked about the 6 degrees of separation, or it's not separation, where someone had someone close, like you said, influenced by this. I guess from a standpoint of the healing process, and having our students potentially come back on Monday, we're having this kind of constant battle of it. When is it too soon, or is it open kind of door policy of you come when you're ready? I guess kind of talk through just a mental mindset of, how do we communicate the proper ways to truly cope with the timing? Like you said, there's no timetable. You can't put a time on it. But this is what they're dealing with internally, of making sure that our students come back and feel safe.
Well, this is Ashanti. Thank you for having me. I'm really thankful for this conversation. One of the things that in our work we talk about with young people is around the timing, is that we can't choose the timing. And I think that what I noticed over the last couple of days, I've been watching some of the news articles, and even the same night when there were some students who were grappling with what they were experiencing. They were feeling a lot of feelings in that moment. Sometimes we are going to respond to things different than another person will. And so maybe somebody who right now is feeling a real intense level of feelings around it because they have a deep emotional connection to what just happened. And some may be in the moment of like, yeah, I'm sad that these people, passed, but I'm numb to it, or I have not yet, I don't know how I feel. And I think what happens on our campuses sometimes is, after a tragedy, 3 days, 4 days, they have counselors available, and then all the counselors pack up and go back wherever they were before the 4 days were. And then when the stuff aftermath comes, when the aftershocks come, the counselors are no longer around. And so there's nobody who's saying on a regular basis, hey, anything that comes up, you got some spaces to go to. I think we missed that. And we've had that happen, not only, as we see on these college campuses, we have it happening in our high schools as well. A tragedy happens the first few days after, there's plenty of counselors easily available. But what happens a week later? Everyone is packed up and going back because they think that, hey, we were here for a week. You should have dealt with it a week ago while we were here. But what begins to happen is all the other stuff, the residual trauma, the residual pain, sadness, worry, fear, doubt begins to come up. And I think we need to be making more space, more regular for the support. In our work, we talk about this emotional mask. The mask is what we let people see. And if you are on a team where showing emotions is not acceptable, then you would probably follow along suit with like, oh, we don't talk about feelings on this team. And where do you go? Well, if you go to some of the coaches or whoever, are you worried about that your position may be in jeopardy because you tell them that you're having some challenges? I think that we have to make it more open, that it is normal, it is expected to talk about what you're going through whenever it is. And I think oftentimes the pressure, I didn't play at college level, but I do have a lot of friends who did, and they would be talking about injuries, but they didn't tell their coach because they didn't want to lose their position. And so they were like trying to deal with it themselves with some, some Bengay and some rap in the back. And you're like, dude, you need a doctor. What are you talking about? And I think that oftentimes if we don't make sure that they know that your health, your wealth, your health is your wealth, and your mental health is also important, that's first. But I don't think that every athlete knows that or believes that. And so therefore, you may not talk about what you need, whether it's physically or mentally, until you know that you can trust that you can talk about it, get the support, and it doesn't jeopardize what you believe you're there for in the first place.
Yeah, that's a good point. And maybe Ashley, you can jump in and answer this. But Ashanti drew a good point there, that there's all this time where we, in the moment. We're in the moment. There's counselors on the scene and everything like that. So talk to this for current students that are there, but also a lot of people that are hurting as well are former students, people that are sitting there watching this show, people that graduated 10, 15 years ago, like the three of us sitting in here, and when these students come back and when those thoughts, when they're walking the sidewalks of East Lansing and they walk by the Union, they walk by Berkey Hall, what are some coping mechanisms that they can do to get them back in the same place?
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Because this is such an individual journey. And so, on the one hand, I think we need to redefine, what strong is, right? And I think that we're doing a good job doing that in these conversations of strong is being able to understand and recognize the whole human experience, which includes all of our emotions, which includes this grief. And, next February, when someone's walking down, the sidewalk and the shadow hits just in a certain way or the sun hits a certain way, and it's going to take someone back to that day. And so things like that are going to come up in life. And so there's not one thing someone can do right, but I think what's most important is knowing what is right for you and knowing that you're able to stand in that and say, you know what, this is not a good day for me, or this is not a day where I can, go to the Union. Like, this is not a day for me. And so to recognize and respect that in yourself, that doesn't mean you're not strong. It means that you're recognizing what feels right for you, and that you kind of continue on that journey of understanding what wellness looks like for you, and then respecting that for yourself.
Yeah. From all those things, and when Jason alluded to at the beginning, I went through a civil war, coming from West Africa here, literally walking over dead bodies, refugee camp to refugee camp and everything like that. And when I tell my story, it is that I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I want you to gain strength from the fact, that I went through this and I survived. I'm a survivor of this. So what message can we tell some of these kids that went through this? This is their second time that they've been in a mass shooting situation, second time within a year that they've gone through this. So what message can we, say that, hey, you're not a victim, you're a survivor. You can persevere through this. So what is that message that we can pass along, that they can take with them?
I don't know. I'll go. I'll take a first shot, and then I'll hand it to you. I know for myself, brother, from the way you responded, saying I'm not a victim, I am a survivor. That is a result of someone doing the internal work to make sure that they're not identified as a victim. Mm-hmm. Not everyone necessarily is going to be in that place or is yet ready to accept that. Mm-hmm. So some individuals, in order to get to that place, they're going to have to do the necessary internal work. And maybe they're not yet ready to necessarily tell their story in a way where I want to empower others. Maybe right now is I want to keep it enclosed. However, with that being said, the moment that they are ready to move towards that final venue of hope and acceptance, the mentality that they need to have, and it was something that I had said earlier, is that in your grief and the way you express your grief and the things that you have gone through, you have now become an advocate for others. So in our pains and our sufferings, we're then learning that what I have gone through at some point, when we reach that acceptance stage, when we reach that hope stage, what I've gone through can now elicit help for others. Right. And so for that moment onward, I'm now becoming an advocate with my voice and in my story. But that processing is going to take on each individual's terms. And so what is interesting is I think a lot of people are ready to hear the scenario of I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. We want to get to that point, but the body and the emotion is saying I'm not yet there. So when we try to ignore that, we're then accelerating ourselves to a stage that we think is acceptance and hope. And all of a sudden we're back to anger and denial because it was not yet properly felt. So in order for us to get to that point where I want to empower my story for others, the work and the diligence on the individual for them to confront the rawness of the emotion has to be done. And it begins with the dialoguing community, and it begins with the journaling. It begins to be confronting self about all the emotions of what they're feeling. So I guess for an example, I'll have students of mine in some of the nonprofit work that I've done where there'll be a shooting victim And the question that's raging in their mind is why me and why us? And if they do not process those questions fully in its fullness, the vengeance there is then going to follow them forward, and they're going to reenact the vengeful cycle back. And in that, they've become a victim of their own story. But if they process that vengeance and then flip the script like you have done with your own story, and they're able to say, no, I'm not going to act with this vengeance, and I'm instead going to use the story as an advocate, then we're going to see the benefit and the fruit from that suffering that they have gone through. But I think in this moment, for a lot of time, for this sensitive period of time, there has to be a trust and a sacredness to the space that we provide for these individuals to speak freely on the pain, even if it does come from a sense of victimization, because that is a part, an avenue, as they progress in their healing. And if we're not sensitive to that, if we're not willing to guide and protect them in this very vulnerable stage, that point of them becoming a survivor mentality may never occur.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that you just said, because I think, just talking, and when I said, that I went through that and I come out when saying but it wasn't just like that I was a survivor. Yeah, and that's what, I would be remiss if I didn't say that, because there was a time when I came and I saw an airplane flying over. I was like, oh, they're going to come and bomb us. And I ran in the house and everything like that. And I had that support group to, be like, it's okay. But I displayed that vulnerability, just like you said, Vinny, that I was that victim at that time. And, I think for everybody, it's okay to be that victim. It's okay, for that moment, that period of time, however long that it takes you to, cope with this and get to the point in your life where you can come by it and say you're a survivor. I think that's something that can't be taken out of context, that, there is a period of time, that healing process, and it comes to people at different times and everything like that. And people surrounding others that went through this should be okay with those other people being that victim and being that, till they get to that survivor stage.
Man,
Yeah, and I really like.
Yeah, go ahead,
Ashanti.
Go ahead, Otis. I was just gonna say, and I really appreciate what both of you just said, and I want to add to that. I want to say, and the part where we are not ready to, because we're watching everybody else around us, and if we're not careful, we can totally see people the next day playing video games, having fun, and we think that they're not feeling real things, but maybe they're trying to numb themselves, or maybe they have substance themselves to numbness, so that they are now trying not to feel what they're really feeling. And when we created the idea of the Million Mask movement, it was around what are you letting people see? Because I think what's going to happen over these next, even probably right now, some people have moved on to the next thing, right? They got to go to work, they got to go deal with their family, got to deal with friends, they got to deal with sports, or whatever the things that in their real life is happening. And when you can recognize that some people are going to wear it differently. Some people today are smiling, but there's a whole lot happening behind what a smile looks like on the outside.
Right.
Some people today have gone back to business as usual, but there's a lot happening behind what you can see on the outside. And I think that's why we created this tool that was really trying to say, look, there's more to me than you can see. There's more to you than I could see. I would never know your story if you hadn't have shared it right here with me today. But that's what happens, because we oftentimes read the outside and we think we know what's really going on with people. So I think people being more gentle with themselves, like if you think people have moved on, they may not have. Don't assume that people are not taking it serious or not grieving, because we all grieve differently. And so having ways of finding the safe people that we can talk about what we're feeling, even though on the outside everyone's walking around like we're back to business as usual.
That was one. I just want to let you all three of you know that truly have obviously are blessed, but also blessed my soul, because I'm still we're all processing, but I never had the time to truly unplug and process fully this, right? Like I quickly had to go to work. Like I had to, like I said, do the necessary things that around me, things were good. Really only the time right before this show, as we kind of built this out, is where like I had to go and just basically say, like, I'm struggling with this. I am truly struggling with this from the post. Yesterday, I had to have this conversation with my 4-year-old about the students who died because she saw this on the news. And no, I'm not trying to shield that from her. Like, clearly that talk is obviously is going to happen, but wasn't truly prepared of it happening yesterday. And so, for me, it's how do I give that story to her, which I did, but she was still innocent. And I fast forward to or rewind to those kids, those students who are innocent, man. And kind of that's where it hits home, where you look at the aftermath. My daughter has fell in love with the alma mater, loves going to sporting events, love dancing, hanging out, supporting. And, that's now something that we have to kind of take into consideration now of, is it safe for us to truly go back to that? And so this conversation truly has opened that up, and I appreciate you guys being vulnerable, coming on and just telling us, how this truly is going to parlay through everybody's minds, because this is national news. But to your point, we're conditioned now to just do mass or senseless act. Then it's the support. Then it's just an ever cycle that we're now conditioned to where, like, when does that stop and truly needs to just break the chain there, right? Like, and so I appreciate you all of doing that, because that's really helped me kind of go through this as we're talking in real time on live, media standpoint of me trying to really now, verbalize that and really be open and vulnerable of what we're going through here internally on campus. And this is day to day. This is nonstop. So appreciate you all.
Yeah, definitely appreciate every one of you. That was very insightful and, very thoughtful words that were said by all of you. Jehuu too, man. And look, man, like I really appreciate this. If there is any athletes out there or anybody, period, that wants to chastise somebody for going through this process, they're not. Look, there's a lot of words I can say that are probably getting in a lot of trouble for, but those aren't our kind of people at all. Our kind of people are people like we have on this show right now that are giving us tools and understanding that it's okay to be vulnerable. It totally is okay. And anybody that thinks different, take a hike. We're human. I believe in the human race. I believe in the evolution of what we're doing, our mind, our species, our people. The kindness in our heart is something that I think will press forward for eternity. Thank you all for coming on this show. Teams Rising, Ashley, Vinny, Ashanti. I can't say enough for what you guys have just shared with us. Thank you.
Definitely appreciate it, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you guys. You guys are doing a blessed job, man. Keep fighting. Appreciate it.
We sure will.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Guys, that's incredible, and we always got your back, Jehuu. We definitely got your back, Otis. Don't worry about that. I think all the of Spartan Nation agrees with that. You guys laid it on the line, and I appreciate that. We need to now get some levity in this conversation when you talk about from a spiritual side of things. And no one does it better than Pastor Marvin, who is joining the show now from Trinity. He's inspiring people to turn their minutes into moments. Author of the Daily Bread, Pastor Marvin Williams joins This is Sparta.
Hey, gentlemen, thank you for having me on. And this is a very, very important conversation. And I celebrate you all for making space and making room for all of us to grieve, but also to look forward to hoping again as well. And Team Rising, all three of them just did such a phenomenal job. Ashanti, Vinny, and Ashley reminding us of just how important mental health is and how important vulnerability is and how important being connected to one another is. And so, so very, very grateful. And again, we've already mentioned it, but our hearts break for the three that lost their lives, Brian, Ariel, and Alexandria, and those 5 who are fighting for their lives in the hospital. One, we got news today that has been upgraded from critical to stable, and that is good news for us. And so, so again, thank you for making space for this conversation.
Yeah, Pastor, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on, with us. And, of everything, I know, this is a tense situation. We all need a little Jesus, and I especially need it too. So I'm going to crack a joke here.
Yeah. We all need him around this during this time. So
yes, anytime I can get closer to the Lord, I'm all in for it. I'll throw a couple of shekels in the collection plate. The extra word for me.
Sound like Rico Beard a little bit. He always trying to give me money for the building fund. So.
Oh, that was a good laughter. Good one. That was a good one. Yeah, we've had Rico on too. We've had him on too.
Yeah, Rico still haven't given me any money. So.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
I really appreciate you being on here.
Absolutely.
Pastor Marv, you know what you mean to me, man. My family. I told you, like, listen, I trust you with my life. We have that relationship. You also helped my staff, when I started, doing a workshop from just team bonding, but trying to set the tide. And I appreciate you doing that for us. But, I'm a pastor's kid, man, and Stray as well. And when I think about just things that we've had to deal with, from a standpoint of a lot, we know that it's inevitable. Everyone has a time stamp, and we know death is there's no sting in death, right? But it's still the kind of the why questions of why, like why would this occur? And I think that's something that people would kind of want to, hear from a standpoint of when you're going and reaching out to your community and your church, of how do you lean properly on your leaders there? Yeah, man, that's a great, again, it's a great question. I've asked the same, the question of, I find myself sometimes in the wilderness of why, and Monday was another moment. I have to be transparent, and I hope we can find space for this, because I think Team Rising talked about this a little bit. We're hearing this so often now that one of the first responses is, oh, there's another shooting, or there's another mass shooting. And it feels like every day, I think it's been 60 or 70 so far in the year of 2023. So it almost feels you feel this sense of numbness, and I have to catch myself. I really have to reject and resist numbness, because the moment I become numb, then I stop caring, not just about that situation, but I stop caring about people around me who are going through all kinds of things. And so one of my first responses was like, there was a sense of, oh, this is another swatting, because we had 2 swattings earlier within the last couple of weeks. But it wasn't until my son sent a text message saying that we are locked down at the house of prayer, which is right next door to Five Guys. We are locked down now, and because there's craziness going on, there's an active shooter, and the moment it becomes close to home, it takes away the numbness. And I began, as a parent, my wife and I, we began, like, we were concerned, not just concerned, but even fearful. And I think that we have to treat all of these as if it's close to home, because I think that allows us to maintain feeling that this is somebody's child, this is somebody's brother, this is somebody's sister. It may not be mine, but if we take the idea that it's the village, and we are all human, we are all connected, and there's a human solidarity
And I think Vinny talked about the universality of humanity. I think we can maintain the feeling, the moment of like this is my brother, this is my sister who's experiencing, this is my mother, my father feeling the pain and the grief of losing a child. I know that it feels like it's so distant sometimes, but I think we have to play those mental gymnastics and say, no, this is a part of who this is another part of me. And so I think there's this sense where we can't afford to be numb about this, but really look at all of humanity as connected. Now, the why part is because of the brokenness of humanity. And again, I don't know everybody's faith journey and what their faith leaning is, but according to my faith, because of Adam and Eve's disobedience in the Garden of Eden, and a lot of people say, "Well, I don't believe in all of that," but I don't know any other explanation how disobedience and evil and brokenness was passed down to all of humanity that would lean or lead someone to do the kinds of atrocities and evils that we saw on Monday, but also in the world, period. So because of the brokenness of humanity, peace and security will always be under threat. And I think we have to be aware of that, and that we're not special, that it cannot happen to us. So I think the brokenness of humanity does lead to these kinds of evils and atrocities that it really upsets us, and not just upsets us, but shakes us to the very core.
Yes.
Pastor, you having we've all had to pivot here, because of what happened a couple of days ago. But you also at your church at Trinity have had to pivot, and you're having a special service coming up this weekend, correct?
Yep, that's correct. So we've been going through a series of messages, and it would be kind of tone deaf for us to just go ahead with what we're doing. We were going to be talking about what does the Bible say about work, and how we should show up every day at work. And man, we just felt like it wasn't the right move. And so we've pivoted. And so this coming weekend at both our 9:15 and 11 o'clock service, we're going to have a service of grief and hope. And so we're going to be, singing, we're going to be praying for MSU and students, and we're going to be praying for kids K through 12, just like Otis, you just mentioned. You have to explain to your 4-year-old how to manage this. And it's so heartbreaking that this generation has known active shooter drills from the time they've been in kindergarten up until now, which is sad. And so we want to be praying for our K through 12. And then we're going to have some administrators, Alexis, Travis, Sam Saldivar, and Elliot Daniels, probably. I think he might be there as well, just to kind of share perspective, and then how we can pray for students. There's going to be another student who experienced just the students' perspective. And we're going to hear from them, and then we're going to spend some time praying for administrators, students, praying for the campus, and then we'll give a message on, what do you do when you lose? What do you do when you lose your peace? What do you do when you lose optimism? What do you do when you lose hope? And we hope that it will be just one small piece to help bring healing to the community, MSU community, but the community at large.
Yeah, Pastor, for
what's the address?
That's what I was just going to ask. Because before you say that, because
Jolly and Dunkel Road.
I'm on looking at the stream here, and I see people. I'm just looking at the comments and everything. And Steve Smith, I'm calling you out. You said, "Yeah, I need to show up to Pastor's church." So let us know where.
That's my dude, Steve. So 3355 Dunkel Road and Trinity Church. and it's there are the four corners. You have the Speedway, you have the coffee shop. I can't think of the coffee shop's name now. Quality Dairy. Big B. That's right. And so we're kind of on that Dunkel. You go back and you'll see us in the back, but 3355 Dunkel Road, 915 and 11. And I mean, we just want to be. We've been a part of this community, and we always ask the question: if Trinity Church was not in the community, would the community miss us? And I think that's a question not only for a church. I think that's a question for all of us. If we were no longer here, would people miss us? And I would say, and again, this is Sparta. If This Is Sparta MSU was not on the air right now, would people miss it? And I think since you all have gotten started, you all have added so much value, and I think people would miss it if it were not on the air. And I think we should ask that question of us personally, but I think we should ask that question of the organizations that we're a part of, and we continue to ask that question of Trinity Church. If Trinity Church was not in the community, would people miss us? And I think this is a perfect opportunity to say, God has placed us here to be light and salt in this community, and so it's our pleasure to be able to serve this community, but also to be able to serve the MSU community.
Yeah, I think something that you just said that really hit me was, when you said that if Trinity Church was not, I think we can use that in our everyday life.
Absolutely.
If I was not, would this person miss me, or, your job or anything like that. That really, really put things in perspective to see what's really important and what you think is important at the time. So I think that's a really good, good statement. And that's something that stuck with me.
I appreciate it.
Do I need a three-piece suit?
Come as you are, right?
You don't need a three-piece suit.
Come as you are. Right?
Sometimes I rock the holes in the jeans, and then other days I'll have my African suit on with from Nigeria. So it just depends on how I'm feeling in that weekend. But you can come as you are. And it's pretty laid back, pretty casual. Otis knows how we rock, knows how we roll, and we'll try to give a message that is relevant to where people are, and you can obviously check out some of the messages. Some people, so the website is actually the front door to our church. So if you say, I want to find out what this church is about, go to the website, listen to a couple of the messages, and see what we've been doing over the last this last year. And we've been talking about a lot of relevant issues as to what the Bible says about certain things. And so, if you want to check us out before you come, you can do that, and you'll see that you're more than welcome.
So, Pastor, you mentioned you say you're Nigerian garb. Do you have Nigerian roots or
no? So when I did the 23andMe and did the Ancestry.com, I have a large part of my DNA is in Western Africa, Benin, Togo, and Jehuu, you would be hopefully, I think you would love this. My first trip to the continent was to Ghana. Accra, Obuasi, and Kumasi. Got my first kente cloth from Kumasi.
Yeah.
And so I think you can appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm from Liberia, but and Liberia has the best jollof rice.
Okay.
So when Mama Caulcrick come, I will get some jollof rice.
Okay, all right.
But I will have to say, Ghana is probably one of the most beautiful countries in Africa.
Okay.
So
that's consistent. He says that a lot.
He does.
Okay.
If you go to Africa, go to Ghana. Beautiful.
Yep. Our college age minister, our college age director, Emmanuel Boateng, is from Ghana, and we have a large group of Nigerians as well as Ghanaians who attend our church on the weekend. And so just we again we I love the fact, again, I've been to Africa probably 8 or 9 times now, from Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, South Africa, Kenya. Just literally, I was just in Zimbabwe we did a 5 countries in 16 days, about 4 months ago. And so beautiful continent. I'm glad I got a chance to go.
Yeah, but if you ever want to send your church in an uproar, go up there and say, because the big 3 is Liberia, Nigeria, and Ghana for the jollof rice.
Okay, all right.
You say the votes are in, and Liberia won in the jollof. Oh,
okay,
man.
now do you cook it? Do you cook it?
My mom cooks it. I can't cook it, I can't do it justice. So
okay,
I'm not gonna do it for the first time. But
all right, when she comes, you got to make sure she cooks it and make sure I get some.
Yes,
yeah,
we're all in. And then after you get it, then you can go up there and say,
all right, that's right.
The debate settled.
Debate.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, listen. Before I know time is running, and the last thing that I want to say, and I would love to pray for the MSU community.
Absolutely.
Is that I know not everybody is there yet, but hope is still good. Hope is still good, and as Vinny talked about, not everyone is there. Again, some might still see themselves as victims before they come to a place of being ambassadors of peace and healing. We have to say, hope is still good. And it might come tomorrow, it might come 3 weeks from now, but we have to keep rehearsing that hope is good and that the sun does shine after the darkness. It does shine after the darkness, and it just has to be our posture after we finish grieving, after we finish mourning. There's a time where we need to stand up and become those ambassadors of healing as well.
Amen to that.
Yeah, amen. Appreciate it, Pastor.
If you don't mind, Pastor, can you send us off in a prayer, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's pray. So, Father, our hearts are heavy from all that we've experienced over the last few days. We are broken, and we carry the pain of those 3 families that lost Brian, Ariel, and Alexandria. There are families who are still battling the anxiety of the 5 that are still in the hospital, praying and hoping that there would be speedy recovery, and we pray that as well. And so we pray for comfort for those families. We pray that your presence would be unique and palpable for those families who have lost children. And we ask that you would meet them there, and that you would remind all of us that you too lost a child. You too lost a son, Jesus. And I ask that you would be with the doctors and the nurses who are tending to the 5 that are in the hospital. And then I ask your blessing over the students that are struggling to come back to the campus, whether it's safe or not. And I ask that you would be with them in a unique way. I pray that they would find space to talk, and space to grieve, and space to weep, and space to actually be connected with others. And then I pray for faculty members who are also struggling. And I pray for all those who are part of the MSU community. Thank you for first responders and the MSU police and the East Lansing police and the local police. Thank you for the dispatchers. Thank you for all of those who played a part in helping to make sure that the pain and suffering was not expanded and extended. And so we pray that as we move forward, another day tomorrow, you would bring us a little bit closer to healing, a little bit closer to hope. Thank you for This is Sparta, the voices on this program. They're very important, even though it's about sports and it's about X's and O's. It's about meeting and connecting with student athletes. It's more than that. It's about connecting an entire community around something that we all can share. So I pray your blessing upon Jason. I pray your blessing upon Jehuu. Pray your blessing upon Otis. The voices would remain strong during this season. Yeah, we pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 As I say in Liberia, Kabani.
Okay, all right.
Appreciate it, Pastor.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks,
Pastor. Appreciate you.
All right.
Man, guys, you know something, like, I'll say, for me, I needed this tonight. I needed this platform. I needed to be around you guys. I needed to be around the guys behind the scene, Tony, Pete, Alicia, everybody. And I needed to be around, I'm just sitting there looking at the comments roll through, just as much as those people that are saying, this is great. We needed this today. They're leaning on each other. I needed this today. I needed to have a laugh with my brothers. I needed to have the sad moments, the happy moments, the difficult moments with everyone. I needed that today, and I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everyone that tuned in and listening, and the people that are posting their comments. This is the first time I ever went on to look at the different comments and stuff that's coming in, and I think the viewers, the faithful, that This is Sparta faithful, they needed this as well. And I appreciate everyone that came together to make this possible today, because like I said, we're 7 minutes over an hour. And if this is something that can give us some type of, escape for an hour, something that we can laugh, we can do a little hee ha ha over here and just escape all the BS that's happened, in the last 48 hours, and all the trauma, all the hurt and everything. This is why we're here. This is why this platform is here. And, big shout out to you, Otis. Big shout out to Jason. Big shout out to Pete, Tony, Alicia, everyone that made this possible. And even big shout out to everyone that's watching. We needed this today, and this was for us tonight.
Without question, Choo-Choo. Like, let me tell you something, man. Like, you search for reasons why things happen when they do happen. And as I'm sure you did when you were a young man in West Africa and Liberia, when those terrible things, those atrocities that you saw right there were happening in front of your eyes, somehow, some way, you end up at Michigan State University from Western New York, and you become a beacon of light for the people who are going through this tragedy right here. Leadership, the way that this thing is orchestrated comes in different ways, and I just thank him for it. I really do. Thank you guys. MSU baseball, or basketball and baseball are going to continue this weekend, which is a bright spot. I don't want to highlight that thing. Obviously, I think Michigan State baseball is going to be in Arizona, as you see here. And in basketball, I think they're going on the road down the road. Aren't they going down there to that school down the road? Look, they've been supportive.
Absolutely.
I don't want to make it about X and O's and all that stuff we talked about, but this is happening Saturday, which is good. Our AD, our athletic director, Alan Haller, said that, sometimes when they took a poll of the community, the players feel like getting back into it is going to help them therapeutically. And we're all for that if it helps them therapeutically.
And just for the record, if Pete can throw this up, we got an invite to Honolulu, Hawaii. It's in the comments here. So
yeah, I saw that too. As you were talking, I saw that too.
So
Honolulu.
We'll take you up on that.
Woody Carr.
Get all the spam and rice ready for me.
Use.
Oh, man.
That's Uncle. Also,
I was
Otis.
thinking, like, from a standpoint of, I think about how sports unites everything, right? Like it's heroic efforts. It's in tragedy. It's kind of that nostalgia of just heroism, or like just, sporting.
What we gonna do now, Coach?
Yeah, right. So I think it's one, student athletes have to process as well. This is not all on them to, like I said, be entertainment for the university. This is truly an opportunity for them personally to go back out there and continuously perfect their craft and, compete. And that's their therapy, like you said. With that event, you have women's basketball at home. So that'll be our first home event on Saturday, the 18th. So it's one of those where we're just really judging on who's going to be open and welcoming coming back. And then whoever's in that building is truly give them just hope throughout this game. That's truly the deal there. So our student athletes, they need your support near and far. That this is going to be tough to deal with. And it's time and time again, we do those moments of silence. We honor our victims. And it's just kind of, like you said, it's a cycle that some are numb, but we do truly got to pray and support our student athletes as they do take the field as representing the green and white after experiencing what happened on Monday.
Perfect. Otis said it perfect. If you can't go to Arizona to support the baseball, you can't go to Ann Arbor. Hit the Breslin up. Support the women's sports. Give them that support that they need. Every sport needs numbers support right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Strength in numbers, 100%. And Otis, Sunday there's going to be a special Spartan social event taking place from 1 to 4 p.m.
Yeah, so 1 to 4 p.m. One of our graduate students on campus, Emily Dahman, she has organized this with her close friends and her mother, and what started out as a small organized event, as you can imagine, as Spartans will, and they will support and come through and join and unite, and it's become bigger, obviously, than what she expected. So Sunday, 1 to 4 p.m., we will basically be welcoming back students back to campus. And so it'll be an event for students to come and grab, goodies and snacks and food and beverages and toiletries, et cetera, just to get them, not say acclimated, but just as goodwill of supporting them in this time. And so we had Meyer fully step up and support. We also had our very own Kyle and IHOP step up this morning to feed our FBI, who's, investigating Berkey Hall. So, the partners, the community, everyone is rising up and supporting. And it's not about me. It's not about us. It's really about we, right? It's everybody. And that's what's a good effort from Kyle and IHOP. And, they're the supporting partner of this show, man. So it's just that opportunity of showing the goodwill and good Spartan love that we just want to continuously put good love out and show that beacon of light to the Spartan Nation. And everyone's coming near and far too, man. So if you are in the city, come down and help and volunteer. We we'll put some stuff on our social just to help drive the awareness for you all if you want to take part in that. But Sunday we'll be there. I'll be there doing this. So appreciate you guys giving me that platform to support that initiative.
No, I appreciate you guys, all of you guys, for this. Speaking of, there's Cal right there. Speaking of IHOP, the Keon Coleman autograph signing will be postponed. It will be pushed just a couple of weeks down the road, as it was. I believe it's going to be in Brighton. Follow our socials for that. Not going to do that this weekend. And also, IHOP has stepped up and said on February 28th, it's going to be a National Pancake Day. Every store in the state of Michigan, proceeds will be going from what are the short stack they're going to give you for free. Come in and get a free short stack. And if you want to donate some money, it's going straight to the Spartan Strong Fund for the victims of this horrific thing that happened to to the people on campus at Michigan State on Monday evening. Here's our link tree if you want to see that and go through and donate to MSU Strong. Take a look at this, record this, support the families of those 8 victims any way you possibly can, fellas. And for Otis Wiley, Jehuu Caulcrick, I'm Jason Strayhorn. This is Sparta. Everybody have a good night. God bless, and go green.
Go White.
This is Sparta MSU as a combined presentation of Playfly Sports Properties and Michigan State Sports Properties. The show is produced by Pete Menez with additional support from Tony Costella. Operations and social media support is provided by Alicia Strayhorn with support from Cecily Max Brown. On-location technical support is provided by Good Fruit Video. Be sure to follow our hosts Jason Strayhorn, Jehuu Caulcrick, and Otis Wiley on social media. To stay up to date with all the latest, this is Sparta News. Please like and subscribe by visiting our link tree and tell a friend to do the same. Thank you for your support, and as always, go green.